Let's talk about parent communication for a minute. When you think about communicating with parents, do you feel like this? Or maybe you feel a little like this.
Oh my gosh.
The goal of this video is to help ease any anxiety you might be feeling about communicating with parents by giving you some simple, creative strategies that you can use. Before we dive into some of my effective ways for communicating with parents, I just want to ask if you would take a moment to please like this video and subscribe to my channel. We create all of the content here on my channel for free, and by liking the video and subscribing to the channel, it helps us to continue to grow so that we can keep putting out free content for you and educators around the world. So now let's get into parent communication. And before we dive into my list, I just want to stress that there is an infinite number of ways to communicate with parents. So if something's not working for you and you're feeling discouraged, keep trying new strategies until you find something that does work for you. And also keep in mind that what works with one group of parents may not work with another group of parents. I've had years where one form of communication worked really, really well, and then the next school year, those parents didn't respond to that same form of communication, and I had to change things up. So just keep in mind there's lots of strategies to use, and it's okay to change things up until you find what works best for you and the parents that you have for that school year. Now, I am somebody that is introverted, so communicating with parents is not my favorite aspect of teaching. I just find having to have conversations with people that I don't really know to be really uncomfortable. So if you have anxiety when it comes to dealing with parents, I completely get it. So I just want to share with you some of the easy, creative ways that I have found over the years for communicating with parents. And the first tip I want to share with you is one that you can implement right at the beginning of the school year. And that is find out your parent preferences. Now, usually at the beginning of the school year, you are going to have a lot of papers to send home with your students that they're going to have to bring back when their parents fill them out. Now, I strongly recommend that in that packet of papers you send home kind of like a survey for each parent to fill out, and they're going to explain things like the best time of day to contact them, their preferred method of communication. So do they like phone calls, emails, text messages, and also some questions about how they would like to be involved this year. Do they want to be classroom volunteers? Do they want to be there on field trips? Think about the different needs you might have for parents and list those out for them to select. Now, this is going to help you so much throughout the school year. My first year teaching, I didn't do this, and it was really hard because different parents worked at different times of the day. Some parents preferred email, some parents wanted me to call, and I just could never really figure out the best way to communicate with each individual parent. So by having parents do this, it is going to tell you specifically when they want you to contact them and how they want you to contact them. It's also going to give you a heads up so that you know who to contact throughout the year for different things. So if you're having a field trip and you need parents, you're going to know which ones to contact. If you're having a class party and you could use some volunteers, you know who to contact. Doing this up front will save you time later throughout the school year. The next tip I have for you is probably one of the biggest game changers of my teaching career. My first year teaching, I would sit in parent-teacher conferences and I would consistently hear the same thing over and over and over again. And that was when I asked parents what they were doing to help their child at home, or if they were working on homework or studying for tests with their child at home, they would consistently tell me, not really, because the way they do things in school now is different from when I was in school. And I found that a lot of parents were not helping their children at home, not because they didn't want to or because they didn't care, but because they didn't understand the methods that we were using in school to teach their child. And some also felt really intimidated by school in general. They may not have had much education themselves, or they may not have had good experiences with schools. So what I started doing was creating these math parent study guides. For every single unit, I would send them home at the start of the unit. I'd write the test date for the unit at the top of the page. And basically what these parent study guides would do is they would provide key vocabulary, and then they would show parents, step by step using visuals and written explanations exactly how I was teaching concepts in the classroom. And guys, like I said, this was a huge game changer for me. More students started turning in their homework. I started to see test scores go up, and I consistently heard from parents how grateful they were for these parent study guides and how much help they were. I have continued to implement this strategy throughout my teaching career, and I consistently hear positive feedback from students. Now, I also sell these parent study guides in my store online. You can find them for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and I consistently get good feedback from other teachers that are using them as well, saying that parents are so grateful for these and how they are really seeing more engagement at home. Another option for showing parents how you are doing things in the classroom is to create short video content for parents. People crave video content these days. It's why YouTube and TikTok and Instagram Reels and all these different things are so popular right now. So you can create short, simple videos that show the parents exactly how you are teaching in your classroom. Now, the key to this is to keep it short and simple. If it's too long, the parents are not going to watch it, but if it's something they can pull up on their phone and it's under 3 minutes, there's a good chance that they will watch it so that they can help their child at home. Now, you may be wondering, how do I share these instructional videos that I create with parents? And the answer to that is something that I think every single classroom needs, and that is a class Google site. Now, a Google site is not only a great way to share your instructional videos with parents, but it's also a great way to share just about anything with parents. Using a Google site, you can also share things such as calendars, important documents, announcements, surveys, class images, newsletter, homework schedules, upcoming test dates, just about anything you can share through a Google site, and the Google sites are very easy to update and maintain. If you're new to using Google Sites, we've got a couple videos here on this channel that can help you get started. First up, we've got a Google Sites tutorial for teachers, and this is going to show you the basic ins and outs of creating your Google site and some of the different tools and features that you can use on your site. We also have a second video all about customizing your Google site. So after you know the basics of how to create one, you may want to include custom banners or buttons on your site, and we'll show you just how to do that too. I've included the links to both of these videos down in the description, so make sure to check those out as soon as you're finished watching this video. My next strategy for communicating with parents is using a newsletter. And how often you send a newsletter home is completely up to you. I like monthly. I find that weekly can be a little too much for some parents, but monthly is just the right amount. Now, when it comes to creating newsletters, my preferred method is using Wakelet. If you're unfamiliar, Wakelet is a completely free digital platform that allows you to create collections of content. These collections of content can include text, images, videos, and links to your Google Drive resources. So it's a great way to communicate information with parents. You can share these Wakelet newsletters through email. You can share them on a Google site. There's lots of different options. If you're interested in learning more about Wakelet, I have a video here on this channel all about how teachers can use it. I've linked that video down in the description as well. Now, while we're talking about using technology to communicate with parents, I want to take a minute to talk about messaging apps, because this is becoming an increasingly more popular way for teachers to communicate with parents. Messaging apps let you send out a message very quickly to all of the parents in your class at one time. It's also an easy way to look up a parent's information quickly and send a message directly to them. Now, when it comes to messaging apps, my favorite has always been ClassDojo, and that is what I have always used. ClassDojo is a free online platform that is used for classroom management. But the great thing about ClassDojo is that parents also create an account so that they can log in and see what their child is up to throughout the day. Now, ClassDojo also has built-in communication features, so you can quickly communicate with parents. It's interesting because the first year that I ever used Class Dojo, I found it and started using it in the middle of the school year. And there were parents who had not communicated with me all year, and it's not because I had not tried, they just never responded or answered when I tried to communicate with them. And all of a sudden, when I started using Class Dojo, I started hearing from them. They told me the reason that they had never communicated with me before was because they could never find my email address or phone number.
No.
Now, even though I had given this to them many, many times, I think Class Dojo was just a whole lot easier for them because they didn't have to look anything up. They could just open the app on their phone, tap it to send me a message, and be done. It just made things a lot easier for them. Now, I've really only used Class Dojo, but I do want to take a minute to share some messaging apps that I know some of my teacher friends are using. And one of the most common that I hear people using is Remind. Remind was built specifically for school districts. So my understanding of this is because it was built for schools, it's more secure. And Remind is just an easy way to send out a mass message to all of the parents in your class at one time. I also have a friend that uses the GroupMe app, and when I've researched this one myself, the way it looks kind of reminds me of like a private Facebook group page. Now, I was kind of turned off to using this one just because as I was researching it, it looks like anyone can send out messages to the group. It's not just limited to teachers. So that means any parent can send a message to everyone in the group without you being able to censor it. So that for me is a little iffy. And also I have read in reviews for this that if teachers use it, it can get slightly annoying if you have a parent that wants to share stuff constantly. So I wouldn't recommend this one, even though I've heard of people using it. I would definitely look into Class Dojo or Remind. Now, the last 3 tips I have for you are just quick ones, and each of these are used to show parents that you are invested in and you care about their child. And the next tip is using a survey maybe 2 times throughout the year, maybe around Christmas time and then later in the spring. Send all of the parents in your class a Google form where you find out what they think is going well, what they would like to see more of from you. And this is just going to show them that you really value their opinion, and you can also use that feedback to improve your communication throughout the rest of the school year. Now, we all know that making good phone calls home throughout the school year is incredibly important. The only aspect of this is it can also become incredibly time consuming to be calling parents every single week and telling them all of the good things their kids are doing. So one way that I've tried to cut down on that time is by printing out good behavior certificates, such as good classroom helper, showed kindness on the playground, just all kinds of things that are good things that kids can do. And so I will give out these certificates periodically and encourage the kids to share them with their parents. This does not replace good phone calls home, but it can help to cut down on some of those phone calls home if you feel like you are just running out of time to communicate with parents. All right, so we're down to my last parent communication tip, and this is keep student learning folders throughout the school year. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a folder for each student in your class, and throughout the school year, you're going to add some of their best work to that folder. So if they do a writing prompt extremely well, you'll add that. If they do an end of unit project, you can add something like that. But whenever you see that a student just does a really spectacular piece of work, you're going to add it to their folder. Now, I like to send this folder home 2 times a year, one about midway through the year and then one towards the end of the year for parents to keep. And I think this is really important because sometimes we have students that just don't get good grades a lot of the time for various reasons. But keeping something like this, it shows parents that even the students that don't get good grades all the time, they do good work throughout the school year and should be applauded for that good work. All right, so there you have it. Those are some easy and creative ways that you can improve and increase communication with parents in your class this school year. And I would love to hear from you. What are some easy ways that you have found for communicating with parents and increasing that communication? Go ahead and let us know down in the comments because I know this is an area that we're all always looking to improve, especially as there's new forms of technology and new things out there that you can use. So go ahead and let us know in the comments. And until next time, happy teaching!